Let's start off with the Dodgers, as they have had. Look, they're 18 and 12. They're 6 games above 500. They've been playing well the last week, but like a lot of fans were questioning them a little bit after their start to the season and all the moves they've made. Will, what is your take on the Dodgers and kind of their start to the season?
We knew going into the season they were going to have potentially some starting pitching issues. They had a lot of injuries to begin the season. I mean, they had a lot of depth with that rotation, but that depth was tested early and is still constantly being tested. So even with the injuries they've had to Kershaw not having Otani this year, I believe Bobby Miller is the latest to be on the IL. They're still doing pretty well in the top third in baseball in ERA. I think it's the long ball that's hurt them a bit, as they're among the top, at least in the National League, in that category. But their offense is exploding behind Betts and Otani, so they're able to ride that a lot of the time, regardless of some of the pitching issues. And their division is very inconsistent after that. We had a feeling going into the season it would be that way. Some questions around the Diamondbacks. I think two out of the three of us favored them a little more than what they're doing now. But it was tossed out that while the Diamondbacks are the reigning NL champs, they had a lot of potential, but still some wild cards. So the Dodgers right now are starting to finally put some space in between them and the rest of the division. For a lot of the month, it was maybe 2 or 3 game difference at most. And there was even a time where it looked like they were barely eking it out. But the Dodgers are getting hot. Betts is and Otani are incredible. This team is gonna take off as the summer kicks in and should be able to run away with the division probably by the end of May.
I want to bring something up because yes, their stars have been carrying them, and I think that's the question with this team, right? So Mookie Betts, we've talked about his brilliance. He's the number one player in baseball right now. He's number one in batting average in the MLB, and he's leading second place by like 24 points or something. It's insane. Um, Will Smith has been having a really nice year. Shohei, obviously. Freddie's been okay. And then Teoscar and Muncy. The problem with the Dodgers has been the bottom half of their lineup has really, really struggled. Um, so looking at their stats for the bottom six, so or sorry, the bottom three, so not including Betts, Otani, Freeman, Muncy, Smith, or Teoscar Hernandez, and this is before the Andy Pajes promotion. They were batting a buck 84, a 250 on base percentage, and a 252 slugging. Chris Taylor, what a fall from grace he's had. He's batting .63 this year, or point oh oh 63 this year, excuse me, in 58 plate appearances. He's striking out 40% of the time. James Outman is batting a buck 82 in 86 plate appearances. His
Buck
on base is only
73.
okay.
It's even
Maybe
less.
I was gonna say maybe my stats aren't updated because there was some variations, and then Gavin Lux too, batting about a buck 80 or buck 80 in 77 plate appearances. Hernandez, so like all these guys again. If your bottom third of your lineup is batting, a buck 84 within three players, that's really tough. Now, maybe they're I don't want to say they're savior because it's not that drastic. When you have six superstars, it might not matter, but they call up Andy Pajes from AAA, and he was raking in AAA. He's played 10 games for them at this point in time. He's had 42 plate appearances. He's batting 282, two home runs, and an 822 OPS. So look, if you're one of those bottom three players in the lineup, you don't have to do much, man. You really don't. But, batting over 200 is obviously very preferable. And again, you don't have to do anything special. You have all that star power, but that's where they've really, really struggled. And Will, I wonder kind of what happens with those spots. I know Jason Hayward's kind of been, in and out of the lineup, Chris Taylor and stuff like that. But do they stick with what they have? Do you think at some point they eventually make a move there, or do these guys just find a way to turn it around?
If they haven't turned it around by the trade deadline, they will probably try to do a move. The Dodgers have put too much money into this team to be complacent with what they have. Heck, we are looking at the Twins and what they did with complacency in the offseason, and granted, they are hot in the stretch versus bad teams, but they're still fourth in their division. So the Dodgers don't want to waste a moment with the primes of the players they have. I agree with what you said that their lineup is so stacked in the top six that they really don't need a ton from the bottom. Having Pajes up, if he can keep up a fraction of what he's doing right now, that solves one of the issues. They're they're back and forth with Lux. We'll see what happens there. And Outman could see some more bench time once Hayward's off of the injured list. As long as they're getting strong production from the top half, they're gonna ride this out as long as possible. But yes, if July comes out, there's going to be a trade. I feel like
I'll throw this back to you real quick too. Do you think there's a chance that they? I mean, I know Gavin Lux was like once this big prospect and stuff like that. Like, do you see there's a chance for him to be shipped out or maybe sent back down with how he's been playing?
I'm gonna say more sent down than shipped out because of the dire situation that the team is dealing with right now and trying to win as many World Series as possible with Otani. If they're not going to trade him right away, if anything, because with his overall ability down, they won't get as much in return, most likely.
Yeah.
They'll just try to work it out themselves. Plus, we know the Dodgers bleed money, it seems like. At some point, there has to be a ceiling. You want to keep that homegrown guy around to try to help round out your team. Otherwise, you're spending money on everything, and eventually, you're just going to have a retirement home for a team.
I guess that's my whole thing with them is obviously they're in win now mode. They are, it's World Series or bust for them. So and we know they're not afraid to spend money, right? So like if you have a guy like him that's
Mhm.
struggling, I wonder if they send him down, get some development there because I mean, obviously last year he was out for I think almost all of the season. I can't remember if his injury happened in spring training or like a couple games into the
It did.
season, but so I mean, he's kind of been unproven, and that was a big thing. And then there's a whole thing with him about he couldn't throw the ball to first, like all this stuff with him, right? And I think that um, that you just don't want to deal with that on a team like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe gets sent down. For Outman, I think they value him a little bit more than his numbers are. So I don't think anything's going to happen with him. But again, like Chris Taylor, one of the guys that was so good for them in their World Series runs before, like he is just a shell of himself right now. And it's really crazy. Like, again, I said the 063 batting average, he has no extra base hits this year. Like, that's crazy to me. Um, but yeah, and then John, I'm going to go over to you about the pitching side of things. So their pitching has been, I would say, above average to good this year. You already talked about Glass now. Their team ERA is very good, and their WHIP and all this stuff. And you mentioned Yamamoto, and I know there's a lot of questions about him right now. He had his first start of the season, obviously, in that Korea series, and it did not go well. And from that point on, he's being ridiculed. It's been an up and down start, but 3 out of his 6 outings this season, he's given up 0 earned runs, and that's in 16 combined innings. And then, you do have those tough games where he let up a boatload of runs and only pitched a handful of innings. What is your take on Yamamoto at this point in time? Because there is so much criticism toward him.
I think the jury's still out on Yamamoto. I think, he's getting paid like a superstar.
No.
Is he a superstar talent? We don't know. This kid's only 25, and he starts his first major league game, in the spotlight essentially in Korea, which, for a Japanese born player is basically, a hostile being the
Mm.
there Korea and Japan, especially when it comes to baseball. Uh, had but maybe the nerves to him. But you know,
Um,
But when
yeah,
you look at the just the raw talent, it it's there.
yeah.
You can clearly see it. Let it, you know, let him get through a season before we, call him a bust or not.
Yeah, and again, I think that as you said, the jury's out on him. He's so young, but like people are talking about him like he's doing so horrible and all this stuff, and like you kind of look at his numbers. He's got a 3.54 ERA overall, and you know, again, you're the way they're talking about this guy, it's like he has an 8 ERA. So I think we have to stop the criticism with him because he has looked good in his last few outings, and he's starting to finally find his rhythm. And I think it's tough too because you're seeing other players come into the league like that have come in from Japan this offseason. I know Jung Ho Lee, obviously not a pitcher, but um, you know, I'm forgetting the guy's name already on the Cubs. Imanaga, I think is how you say his name. Like he's been one of the best
Mhm.
pitchers in baseball. So you're comparing all
Shota
this
Managa.
to Imanaga. I couldn't remember how to say his last name, but yeah, I mean, like you're comparing all this, and he really has not been that bad,
Well, also
in
keep in
my
mind his
opinion.
age.
Yeah,
Shota Managa is also 30, so he's 5
yeah,
years, older than Yamamoto. And then also keep in mind Yamamoto didn't pitch in MLB. He never pitched in the minors, you know, for
yeah,
an MLB team. So that was literally his first start over here for a United States team. I shouldn't say over here in the United
yeah,
States, but because technically he was in Korea. But like the lights were bright that day, and maybe they just got to him on his first start.
yeah,
So you have somebody that comes in with the legend of John Henry's hammer, you know, y- and if they don't deliver or meet up to that expectation, it's almost unfair. You know,
yeah. Um, we'll close out this point with the Dodgers. Will, I'm going to ask you this question straight up. Barring any injury, is Mookie Betts your clear MVP? Come the end of the year, is she going to win MVP?
You're saying that to a Phillies fan right now that's watching Alec Bohm do what he's doing.
I mean,
I'm
look,
going to
Alex
say
Bohm
he's
is
a heavy
great, but
favorite right now, but he's not clear cut. If anything, also because Otani's doing so good. I think
yeah,
I can more surely say right now, I feel like the Dodgers could have two people finish in the top three in MVP again. But to say
yeah.
Betts is the clear front runner at the moment, he's got some competition.
I think at this point he's obviously the front runner. I think like, is he going to keep up the pace he's on? It would be historical if he did. He's playing out of his socks right now. Like it's unbelievable how he's playing. Um, but you know, do I think like I had said prior to the season, I was like, all right, Acuna, it's going to be Acuna and Tatis. Acuna has kind of come out of the gates slow, and Tatis is so, and again, Betts has just been absolutely crazy. One thing I did want to mention, I just seen this with the Dodgers is Brusdar Graterol, who they have been without the whole season. And there's no timetable on him coming back, but he's been such an important part of this team. And come playoff time, they're going to want a guy like this. His throwing program got shut down because of still discomfort, which is not a good sign for them. You don't know when he's going to come back at this point. He hasn't pitched this season, but had a 1.2 ERA in 67 innings last year. That's pretty damn good. And come playoff time, you're going to want a guy like this. So I just want to say, I think we need to look out for that come playoff time. Like if you're, we know how important bullpens are come playoffs, and a guy like that, getting him back is going to be big. Evan Phillips has been huge for them this season so far, but man, it would be nice to have him back.